Well, good evening, and a big welcome to you. It's beautiful to see many of you again. It's from just a couple days ago, being on retreat. What a gift it was to be on retreat. And for those of you who didn't make it, it's lovely to see you as well. Yes. And so before we dive deeply into anything, I'm going to invite us just to take a couple minutes here, just sitting in meditation and allowing ourselves to open, to open, to arrive here fully and completely. And to allow the tenderness, the silence of this moment to hold us, to receive us. So much of our life, we're so busy thinking, striving or chasing. And I invite you just to be here in this space of love, this space of peace. And to really surrender, this day and all that has come with it. Have you been traveling, to surrender the traveling? And human beings are always seem like they're going somewhere, rushing here and rushing there. And I invite you just to come home to this moment. As we breathe in and breathe out, trusting in this peace, in this depth of quietude. As we breathe, as we feel, as we soften, with every breath, can we surrender? With every inhale, we open. And coming to recognize that your nature is silence, is openness. Many of us, we think our nature is all this thinking, all this doing, and all the outward events. But the path of spirituality is really about returning home. This quiet depth of being. This quiet depth of being. Which is a different type of life than the life of the mind. And I invite you to notice, well, what is it like when you have no mind? We all certainly know what it's like to have a mind, and the whole personality, the egoic nervous system that arises out of having a busy mind, an agitated mind, a stressed out mind. But what is it like to have no mind? And so I'm going to invite you to continue to breathe and to feel and to soften. And to simply rest in this quiet presence of being. And so really feeling into the heart. And opening right in the center of the heart. This tender point of love. This tender point of love, we open. This innocence and this purity of being. And if we notice by just purely by comparison, while our mind it tends to grip and grasp and often be agitated and trying to control this or that. When you come into the heart, a true heart, not the emotional heart, but the true heart right in the center, inward toward the spine. we see that there is this gentle quietude, an innocence and a purity that is, well, it's just naturally good. And there's a wholeness, a completeness about the heart. A wholeness and a completeness, which we will never find in egoic identity. The ego is made with a program of lack, a program of fear, a program of separation. But as we, again, just feel into the heart and in just a childlike way, a childlike, if we look at the heart again, just as if it's our first time seeing the heart. I come to discover it's very similar to how a child sees a puppy for the first time. They just see a puppy and they smile, they light up. Like, look at this little bundle of joy, of radiance, of aliveness. And how healing it is for us to look inside and see and experience your innate goodness. And as we connect with this goodness, our nervous system begins to soften, the forehead and all the thinking softens, the jaw softens, the shoulders relax, and there can just be the sense of, oh yeah, I'm good. The world is good, life is good. But in a humorous way, maybe not so humorous to everyone here, but when we look out at life through our egoic lens, there's a sense of, oh no, the world is not good. The world is dangerous, and I need to control, or I need to numb, or I need to speak up and, be assertive and fight against, or claim my seat here, at the table of life. But when we stay in contact with our heart, when we merge with the divinity of the heart, we begin to know ourselves as the heart. All those survival instincts, they begin to fall away. And then there can be this corresponding awakening of energy. We notice the spine coming alive, and energy flowing fluidly throughout the spine. The nervous system relaxing and opening, and instead of the nervous system registering stress or fear or panic, again, as we come into the heart and we begin to take our seat in the heart, the nervous system really softens and relaxes. And you may notice all these meridians, all these channels lighting up within you, where we start to feel these streams, these currents of bliss, the fingertips, the palms of the hands, perhaps up the forearms, to the elbows, all meeting in the heart. The same thing like with you feel into the toes. As a father, we call the toes the little piggies, the little piggies on our feet. And we see them lighting up. And each of the little piggies that extend from our feet, and they start to light out just with this joy of sweetness, of innocence. And so the bottoms of the feet lighting up, and the ankles, the calves, the shins, the knees, flowing up through the quads, again through the pelvis, and in the root chakra, open and relaxed. The hara, open and relaxed. The solar plexus, open, and of course, all these centers radiating with light. And if you're sensitive, you may notice just a sweet stream of bliss. A sweet stream of bliss. And whether it's coming from the fingertips and the toes and streaming in the direction of the heart, or whether it's radiating out of the heart and streaming throughout the body, or we can smile and remember, oh yes, there's another way to live that is not informed by stress. That's not informed by trauma. That's not informed by the past. There's another way to live. And often when we discover this another way to live, we start waking up out of the perspective of ego and into the perspective of our truth, our innocence, our innate blissfulness, our innate completeness. Again, there's this feeling, a feeling of arriving home. And many of us, we do this maybe when we're out at work or we're on the job, and we really guard ourselves when we're out in the world. But when we arrive home, a lot of us we surrender it all. We come inside and we melt. We melt open. And so that's the invitation tonight, is to melt open into this innate goodness that you are. The simplicity of being. And so we can gently open our eyes if we haven't, but I invite you to stay in this meditative experience. You might even look around the room and just seeing that there's space here, there's silence, there's a sense of okayness. And as you look out through the lens of the heart, you might just notice throughout your home just the objects and the space that make up your home are radiating just with this gentle sweetness of being, this gentle beauty. This gentle beauty. And this has always been such a wonderful realization for me on the spiritual path was the realization of beauty. How many people speak about beauty as one of the absolute natures of life, of reality? But there's a beauty in all of creation. What did they say in Genesis? They said like God made the world in 7 days or something like that. And then it says something like, and it was good. The creation is good. It's good. It's innately good. The mind can argue with that and say, well, there's all kinds of things that happen in creation that are bad, but that's just the mind's judgment. A judgment. And this evening I'm going to invite us to really look at this question of spiritual freedom. If we want to be free, there's so much that we have to unknow, that we have to unlearn, that we have to forget or forgive or release or empty. Because if your head, if your mind, and if your emotional nature is full, if it's full of thoughts and ideas about how the world should be, if it's judgments against the world, if it's conclusions that we've come to where we say, this isn't right, this isn't fair, I don't like this, I don't like this. I had this funny experience of, I opened up the freezer just a couple of hours ago, and in the freezer I saw a box of ice cream, and what's a box? A carton of ice cream, and it was mostly all the way eaten. But my mind just noticed the carton of ice cream, it didn't have the lid on it. And the mind's like, well, this ain't right. This ain't right. And I looked at my wife and I said, what the hell's going on here? More just messing around. I mess around a little bit with the family. Like, what the hell's going on here with the ice cream? And, I've just been gone for a week. I left her with, our daughter, who's really rambunctious and wild. So she had her hands full, and these two little dogs. And, at some point, the bear came to visit and got all tangled up in the, in our fencing outside. And just, but that's the type of thing that the mind says, walk into a situation, I'll find the thing that's wrong. Of course, I love my wife, and that, there's no sense of judgment there, but we just joke with each other every now and then. And then she'll come into my office and she'll say, like, what's going on here? Like, why is it such a mess? Why is it such a mess? And that's the nature of the mind, is it just looks for problems. It looks for problems. For other people, like I'm not a big sweets eater. Like I could care less if the family eats all the ice cream. They can have it all. But for some people, there's this math that they're doing in their head. They buy a gallon of ice cream, and if there's 3 people in the house, that thing should be split into thirds. This is my third, or if it's, 2 people in the house, this is my half. You're eating more than your share. You're eating more than your share. That's how the mind thinks. How it thinks. It makes rules and it asserts itself, or I bought the ice cream, it's mine. I can remember when I was in college and I had a job. I had to pay my way through college, but the majority of the people I lived with, I had just like tons of roommates in college because we were a bunch of hippies. But the majority of my roommates, I don't know if they had a trust fund or their parents just paid their way, and so they didn't have to work. But not only would they not work, but they would eat all my food. And so in college, it was like, hey, stop doing that. You're eating all my food. You're eating all my food, and you know how it is. Oh, I'll get you back next time. It's like, yeah, but I'm hungry now and you ate all my food. This is a problem. And that's how the mind thinks. Now the heart thinks in a different way. The heart, it doesn't think. The heart has an intelligence of unity. And I have a friend, and he called me up the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, hey, like my buddy, he's a grandpa, and he's like, hey, I got my grandson coming to town. Like the parents, of the kid are like kind of falling apart and going through something, but it's the kid's birthday. And uh he's like this little Navajo boy. He's 9 years old, but he lives in Albuquerque. That's where his family is, but his grandpa's up here with me in Durango. And so my buddy calls and it's like, hey, I want to have a birthday party for my grandson, but he doesn't have any friends here because he doesn't live here and his family's all, falling apart or whatever. So, can you show up, Craig, with the family, and, we'll celebrate him. And I was like, of course. And so the heart, it loves to care for, it loves to attend to, it loves to include. It doesn't divide. It doesn't say, well, I don't know the kid. It's like, it's not my party, not my kid, not my problem. Like that's how the mind thinks. And we were pretty tired. I'm still I got some jet lag going, and I had another very difficult travel experience just getting back home from the retreat. But anyways, I made it back. And so we went to this party, went to the little birthday party. And it was sweet. And really cheered this kid up and really built him up. We all went bowling, which was fun. We have a bowling alley out at the casino on the Ute reservation here, and we had a nice time just celebrating, this little fella. And that's how the heart thinks. The heart's like, yes, let's include, let's honor, let's unite, let's work together. But the egoic nature is me and mine. Me and mine. My ice cream, my money. I'm not buying presents for some kid I don't know. I think of George Costanza from Seinfeld. One of the episodes, he got invited to an engagement party, and he was like really concerned. He's like, I got to get them an engagement present, and then when I go to the wedding, I have to get them a wedding present. He's like, why am I always giving presents out there? This isn't fair. There should be a rule against this. One present. And he was going on and on. And again, that's what makes the show a real comedy, is because they have these wild egos. And it's just a play. For George, it's a play on his stinginess, or his identification with his body, with being kind of short, round, bald man, middle-aged man, very unsuccessful in life. And we can smile, we can laugh, at the perils of George Costanza. But I mean, the reason we can laugh is because we see like the voices that George has. And then like me, I more identify with Kramer. He has like these wild thoughts and ideas, and he's always floating into outer space and, wandering into trouble and this and that. And so, we can smile because Sometimes our character's on the TV. Our character's on the TV, and we can smile, we can laugh at the experience of being human and how serious everyone takes themselves. But you see, with these three guys and one lady, Elaine, it's like it's hard to take any of them seriously because they're all just a bunch of jokers. And often, I've thought of my human identity in this way. It's just like a joker, a joker, a clown. And because of that, there's a looseness and a flexibility around the character of Craig. Now, in the realm of spirituality, I'm dead serious. And nobody, like no one, could ever get in between me and God. No one could get in between me and my teacher. It was just like, I was like, Jesus, like, get behind me, Satan. Like, I'm going forward on this, on this path of awakening, of course. But in the realm of my humanity, if someone was in front of me or cut me off or, stole from me or this or that, it's just like, okay, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Someone makes fun of my human identity, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But if they get in the way between me and the truth, well, they better watch out because my discipline, my heart, all of myself is lined up, walking in one direction. And so anyways, I'm going to invite us just to play a game again. So we'll just close our eyes again. And as you look inside just at the character of you, just the character, I invite you to look at that character. And I want you to see if you can see yourself, like to paint yourself as a cartoon character. And I don't know what it is about cartoons, but they tend to soften us into a sense of humor. So if you can just paint yourself as a cartoon character. And I invite you to see whatever it is that this cartoon character trips over. It's like, what are the things you trip over in life? For Homer Simpson, we trip over donuts, eating a little too much, and laziness, and drinking that beer or whatever it is. But to be able to see ourselves as a character and to be able to smile a little bit, to loosen up a little bit, and to not take the whole dance so personally. If we can continue to play with this, if you see this character just, a little more, what is this character really holding on to? Like, what is he, she, like, what do they think they know to be so absolutely true? But for you, like the truth of you, when you look out at this cartoon character from your life, from the depth of your heart, can you see that this character gets it wrong? Often. Gets it wrong, like gets confused often. And again, I don't mean this in any judgmental way, but just from a place of spiritual inquiry, from a place of open-heartedness, from a tender space of humility, can we see that the character of us Or sometimes is like Homer Simpson, sometimes like Bart Simpson. In my past, I've been both Beavis and Butthead. I've been them both in the past, just thinking I know something, but, just really ignorant. And ignorant just in the sense that we cannot know reality totally. We never will. And so as you see yourself as this cartoon character and see kind of the things they trip over and then the big assumptions they make. And for some of us, we have assumptions that I need someone special to love me and that will make me worthy. For others, it's, for one of the social media people, I need to have at least 100K followers or something. That means I'm good. That means I'm worthy. For others, I need to have a certain car or home or live in a certain neighborhood. And to really just see the assumptions. And to acknowledge that these are untruths. And when we hold on to these assumptions, we hold on to these falsehoods, or sometimes it's just an expectation. We place a demanding expectation on the world that the world treats us a certain way. When we speak, everyone becomes silent and listens. I had that experience on retreat when I spoke. Everyone, hushed up and really listened. When I came home to my house, my daughter wasn't listening, and my wife was busy, and the dogs are just looking at me wanting food. But when we have these assumptions and expectations, our heart closes down. It shuts us off from reality. And so instead, if we choose to step into our heart and smile at our humanity, see the humor in it, what happens is the humanity stops having so much power over us. Stops having so much power over us. And so we can gently open our eyes again. And I invite you just to play around with the chat, and you might even write a couple things that you saw that you had, the thing maybe you tripped over, or the assumptions, that you saw. And to really acknowledge that human beings really have just one mind. One mind. And we all share it. We all share it. Now, that mind is definitely going to have different flavors in this and that. But in this one mind, it's a mind that thinks it is right. It thinks it's correct. It thinks it knows. And for some of us, we know for certain we are unworthy. We know that in the depth of our ego. But as soon as we come into the depth of our heart, we discover something different. Oh no, I am good. I'm innocent. I'm not unworthy. What was I thinking? Oh, I was thinking what my parents were thinking, and they were thinking what their parents were thinking, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so Aaron writes, I trip over perfectionism and fear. Yeah, and perfectionism, like that's a real tough one, because we can try to be perfect for the rest of our life. And the the fun thing about aging is the older you get, the more you just fail at being perfect. Because, I struggle to see, like, I have trouble seeing far away. Now I'm having trouble seeing up close. And it's like, oh my gosh, like this is something. This is something. And, the body just gives you so much difficulty as you get older. It's just really hard, really hard. Greg is saying wanting people to behave differently. Like, that's a big one. That's a big one. Like, I've had this thing. So I've lived in this little town for 30 years, but since COVID happened and then the work from home revolution, so many people moved to Colorado, whereas in the past there was no industry in our little town. So, unless you worked in tourism or home building or something, or real estate or at the hospital, there wasn't much work to be done. And so, Greg is writing, wanting people to behave differently. I've had this thought so often. I want people to not be in Colorado, just not to be in my town, not to be on the street, not to be on the road, because I'm starting to experience traffic for, like the first time in my town in 30 years. And that's something to be like, oh, I have to wait. I have to wait. And of course, the mind doesn't like it. Now, the heart, I was at the farmer's market yesterday, and I was sitting at the farmer's market. An old friend came up to me. We were just sitting there, and she said, "My, look at all these beautiful people." And I was like, "Yeah, look at them. Look at all these beautiful people. Look at them and see the heart. It sees from a place of love." But the egoic mind would look from a place of stress or agitation, or like, just judgment, wanting the world to be different. And if we want to be free, you can't want the world to be different. If we want to be free, we accept the world as it is. Now, we may work, to help to evolve the world, of course. But, we have to accept this is the world. This is how it is. Okay. Let's see what else. Blair writes, I trip over anxiety, unworthiness, and food. Yeah. Yeah. And all of us, if we, if you just did a fast for a day or 2 or 3, 4 or 10, like where you don't eat, that's what a fast is. Sometimes people have different ideas about fasting, but where you don't eat at all, you'll see all kinds of food issues arising. All kinds of food issues arising. You see all kinds of things with blood sugar and cravings, and like a lot of us have seen this just, again, like kind of in a little bit of that COVID period when the supply chains got really messed up, and our normal box of crackers or whatever it is, like we couldn't find our organic crackers. It's like, oh, I have to eat, the crackers with the glyphosate, sprayed on them, and we can have all these judgments about it. Of course, no one wants to be eating poison, but we have all these ideas. I've had so many ideas about food. And when you travel and you go to a foreign country, it's like we have to throw those ideas out the window. And in that, we can experience the joy and the beauty of a new world. A new world. Okay, let's see some more. Justina writes, I think boundaries are a good thing sometimes. Like, it's okay to not want people to eat all your food. Yeah, of course. Look, this is something that, Justine is a therapist, but as a therapist, we have to acknowledge this every time. There's a time and a place for boundaries. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in the world of freedom, there's going to be a dissolving of our unconscious boundaries, our unconscious rules, our unconscious expectations. But, I want to be clear here. I've heard many great Buddhist teachers say this, like, the Buddha was a big fan of boundaries. If you're a monk, you're going to be a big fan of boundaries. So of course we need to have boundaries, or the world would just be in utter chaos. But some of us, we hold on to our boundaries so tightly, so tensely. And again, it causes us great suffering. And if you ever go to India, you see that the people in India, like, they don't have personal space. They don't have personal space. People will stand in line just like right up against your body. And I can remember just like the first time I went and saw the great living saint Amachi, who's back there behind me. And there's all these Indian people there, of course, because she's from India. And the people were just like right up against my body. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why are you touching me? That's what we say as Americans, because we like to have 3 feet. During COVID, the boundary was 6 feet. We like to have this big personal space. And even in Colorado, like, we tend to have a lot of space between our cars. But you go to California, or you go to New York City or something, it's just like, boy, the people can just be like right there up in your business. And again, we might have this thought, it shouldn't be this way. There should be more space between cars. There should be more. And again, when we hold on to our ideas, when we hold on to them with tension, and we think we are right and we know, we will make the world wrong. And in the wrongness of the world, our nervous system becomes agitated. And as our nervous system becomes agitated, our chakra centers close, the heart closes, the mind closes. And it's very difficult to see beauty, to see wonder, to see the inherent spacious nature of reality when we're busy projecting and believing our expectations. Okay, let's hear what else. Aaron writes, boundaries are for muggles, Justina. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah. That's a Harry Potter thing. These people don't get the joke. Kyle writes, in the past, I've been a little too much like SpongeBob sometimes, Mr. Nice Guy. Let people walk all over me a little too much. Yeah. And Lauren writes, I've been too much like, does that say Squidward? Cynical and grumpy. Now this must be SpongeBob references. I've never really seen SpongeBob. I know who he is, but I don't really know the cartoon very well. But it's good to see. It's good to be able to see yourself, as Squidward, because again, you can smile. Like in my family, sometimes, because I'm teaching and working with people in a real space of quietude throughout the day. Like when the family's home in the summertime, not at school, there's a lot of shushing in my house, like shh, 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 because I want to keep a serene space and not have a bunch of kids running and screaming in the background and throwing balls all over the house and this and that. And so sometimes they call me the grumpy old man, the grumpy old man. And so, but again, I smile. I don't take offense to it. I smile. I just feel like, yeah, and laugh with it. Here we go. Catherine O'Neill, thinking I need a romantic partner to support me in my career. I like that Catherine says this. It's like a very exact thing. So she's seeing an assumption here, thinking that I need a romantic partner to support me in my career. Sometimes we have like a job that the people in our life are supposed to do for us. The problem is most of those people don't know that that's their job. Like, oh, I didn't know this was my job to support you in your career. And, so when we see these things, these are like little points of egoic delusion that we can liberate. Yeah, beautiful, Catherine. Okay. Danny writes, my mind is convinced that I am a nuisance in social situations. Yeah, I've met a lot of people who've had this one where they think, just like, if I meet with them one-on-one, we get along great. But as soon as they're in a social situation, they think, I'm a nuisance. There's something wrong with me. People don't like me. And again, that's often something we pick up from our parents. We grew up in a house and maybe there was just too many of us kids, or we grew up next to a muddy cornfield and we were always bringing mud in the house. That's one of the things like I was doing as a little boy, just always running around in those cornfields and bringing the mud in. And if we just keep getting yelled at for bringing the mud in the house, we might come to a conclusion that, oh, I'm a nuisance, to life. I'm a nuisance in the family. And then we project that on to just social situations the rest of our life. And at some point, it's good for us to wake up out of that and realize, oh, I am good. I am good. This is just something I picked up, some conditioning I picked up as a child. This isn't the truth of me. And so again, if we want to be free, there's so many things we have to unknow. So Danny, I want you to unknow this idea about being a nuisance. Let's unknow this. Yeah, Nan writes, if people mess with me, I want to punch them in the face. And you're really showing us something here. You're showing us your strength, your fire. If people mess with me, I want to pop them in the face. And and so all of us have this within them. Like all of us. We may think, oh no, I don't have this. But if we're stressed in just the right kind of way, we might just pop someone right in the face. Now that may take, a great deal of stress or some real specific, circumstances. But again, I encourage you, not to go to India, if you have this thing, because again, like people will be right on top of you. Here in the US, if you just stood like right up in someone's business, you might get popped in the face. But in India, it's just culturally, how they do it. Because they have, a billion people, maybe probably a little bit more. Yeah, yeah. And so as we read these, I hope you can all see that we all have these, a little bit to some degree. Johan writes, I notice I trip over thinking I'm a failure until I do certain things that my mind thinks I should do, but also trip over pride. Yeah. And so sometimes we have a mind that where we just can't win. It's like we have to be perfect. And then also we have pride. It's like we're just stuck in this place where our mind's just it's gonna identify with both swings of the pendulum. I'm a failure and I'm the best. And now I have to always be the best in every moment. And again, but Johan, like if you just drop into your heart, like Johan sung for us on the retreat, and he played this beautiful Indian instrument for us, and I want to call it a sitar, but it wasn't a sitar, it was something else, and he'll tell us in the chat. But his innocence just shined through, this radiance, this divinity, such a sweetness, such a tenderness. And but Johan, he often writes about his struggles with his powerful mind. And again, if we want to be free, we have to continue to return to the heart and see life from the heart. To see life from the heart. And in fact, I want to do this just for a moment here. Again, I'm going to have us close our eyes. And I invite our two eyes that are on our forehead almost to kind of like float downward. Right into the heart chakra, kind of get locked into the heart chakra. And feeling the innate goodness, the sweetness, the tenderness of the heart. And then as we open our eyes, we look out at reality. from the heart. And you see, when the eyes are in the heart and you look out from the heart, it has a very different feel to it experientially. It can feel like being a little kid again, just like looking around and being like, oh, this world is beautiful, it's radiant. But if we let go of that perspective and come up into our mind, and we have, this orientation in our mind where we think we're a failure, and we're proud of being perfect, it's just like, oh my God, like that's some kind of hell world where we're like walking a tightrope, always trying to be perfect and running away from failure. Whereas when our eyes are simply looking from the intelligence, from the view, from the perspective of the heart chakra, our whole energetic experience changes. The whole world, we see it in a much softer light. A lot of people, when they go on vacation, they do this. They're just in their head their whole life at work, being analytical, being, good worker bees, being results oriented, all this. And they go on vacation and they just press pause on their mind. And they come down into the heart. And there's this sense of peace, a sense of spaciousness. And they see the beauty all around them. All around them. Many of us, we do this at the end of the day. Like we work real hard. A lot of people, if you work even in a hospital, like this, there's so much stress and intensity, and you really have to be thinking, in the hospital, if you're a doctor or a nurse, and like doing the math with the pills and all that kind of stuff. But then you come home and you go for a walk, and you walk around your neighborhood, or you walk around the lake, go for a walk on the ocean. And then all of a sudden we're seeing life from this radically different perspective. And the felt experience is just incredibly different. But some of us, we work so much that it's like we turn on our mind, but we never turn it off. We never turn it off. And that, again, could be troublesome. And the word for that would be, we suffer. We suffer. Let's hear from Taylor. A sadness that life is not on my side. Yeah, which reminds me of that Hilda-esque song, God is on your side. Yeah, God is on your side. Yeah, I've sung that song so many times. God is on your side. God is on your side. Yeah, thanks, Taylor, for that. That's a beautiful reminder. Yeah. And I think that's just the perspective of the ego. Taylor's like really writing that in a real crystallized way. Is the perspective of the ego is it's me against. Me against. Whether it's life, against all the other human beings, against, the boss or the family, or, the tribe, or, the other tribe, the other political party, or whatever it is. And, if one of the things Taylor's bringing up is when we start to see these assumptions that we have, you start to see that they're not just thoughts, they're not just philosophies, but they have like an emotion behind them, a feeling view behind them. And often it's a view of hurting. Often there's a sadness or an agitation, a feeling of loneliness, or I need to fight against, tell everyone they're wrong, this type of thing. I had just such a wonderful experience. I told all you this on retreat, but I got kind of sidelined in DC for a moment, and I had all these thoughts about DC, about political fight and division and all this stuff, because anytime you see DC on the news, it's like people protesting and fighting. But I showed up there. Can't remember what day it was. It's like not 9 o'clock on a Friday night, and my daughter, she lives. I keep saying this, right next to the Capitol. She's the first house next to the Capitol. It's just an incredible little piece of real estate she's on. She's there doing something for school, doing a job there. But so I rolled up, I met my daughter, and it was such a beautiful night. I mean, it was hot, it was humid, but the sunset was perfect. The Capitol was massive. I thought the Capitol was like a quarter of the size that it was, but just being on the hill, and there was just such beauty and such radiance. There weren't very many people at all, and there's just this lightness of being and this energy of just great hope in the air and this radiance. There's something about being in the South. It's just like this warmth, and you can hear in the South the bugs make like this symphony, especially as it's getting to be sunset and nighttime, and lightning bugs started to come out. And my daughter and I, we walked around the Capitol, and just had such a beautiful evening. And there's people from all over the world, just like a handful of them, Germans and Italians and this and that. And everyone was so nice. The police presence, they were so nice, and they were sweet. And I was just in awe of the hugeness of the Capitol and the sunset and the fireflies. And here I showed up just with all this conditioning, from watching the media, just watching the news. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like I almost felt as if I was like walking in Paris. And it was just so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. It wasn't Paris, it was DC, but I was just in amazement. She lived like right next to the Capitol, right next to the Supreme Court, and like the other building was the Library of Congress. And just walking around, seeing the statues and the lawn and the beautiful southern sunset. It's just such a joy, such a joy. Thank you, Taylor. Uh, we missed you, Taylor. I missed you. I missed you. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Terry writes, this human mind thinks it's in charge of making sure others do things right according to the mind. Yeah, always according to the mind, or else things will go wrong in reality. Even if people don't do whatever it is the way the mind thinks, everything is fine. There's no actual catastrophe. The funniest part is that half the time I'm the one doing things only half right. The joke's on me. Yeah, the joke's on us. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm sorry, you have to forgive me. I just have to fix something with the technology here. For some reason I keep losing the Facebook feed. It just keeps breaking up on me. I don't know what that's about. Give me a second. Let me see if I can get these guys back in business. Just bear with me. I almost have it. Okay, thank you for your patience there. Let's keep going here. Aaron Morrissey. writes, I trip, excuse me, I trip over guilt, insecurity, and wanting to fix things that aren't my job to fix. Yeah. And, for some of us, we can have like a social justice warrior within us, or we can have, something about us that, is just really trying to help the world. But if we look at our desire to fix the world, again, like almost always, it arises from an anxiety. An anxiety. Some people have this anxiety of just constantly trying to fix themselves, and then others are just like trying to fix the world. Now, I'm a big fan of just like looking at everything tantrically. If we look at, well, this thing of like, okay, I really want to fix the world. And we see that arises out of anxiety. Often this comes forward because we aren't living our embodied truth. Because when you start living your embodied truth, and by that I mean when we begin to live our gift, whatever that gift is, when we live that gift, we stop trying to fix the world, and it becomes this sharing of our gift and connecting with the world and meeting the world with love and some type of unity through the avenue of our gift. And it can be this beautiful dance that, we're all created in the image and likeness of God, but eventually God will ask us to share our unique divine gift with this world. And if we're not doing that, often we feel isolated, we feel insecure, we feel alone, and we feel disconnected from reality. And there's a kind of disconnection that says, okay, but if I fix the world, well, then I'll feel safer, I'll feel better. But most of us, even if we have a profound awakening experience, there'll be a little bit of a gnawing energy in our heart, in our belly, that won't feel complete unless we actually are sharing our gifts in this world. It's one of the reasons why, I make it a priority to support you each in sharing your own gifts, because it's a great doorway to happiness. That's what we're here to do. I mean, we're here to heal, we're here to evolve, we're here to awaken. But of course, we're here to share our gifts. Okay. Let's see here. And especially like when we're younger too, we have this, like I had this, when I was really young, as I was going to save the world with communism. It didn't work out too well. I'm sorry, I'm laughing so much if there's any other communists in the room, but I'm just like, that's not going to work. Or then, whatever the next political system is, we're going to save the world with this. And it's like, good luck. Okay. I'm sorry. I just don't have faith in politics. I have faith in divine intelligence. I have faith in your gift. I have faith in humanity waking up. But politics just tends to, be like sports teams, just leads to division. Okay. Gianni's writing, trying to get everything right all the time and beating myself up if I don't live up to unrealistic expectations. Yeah. Many of us have this. Okay. Justina, I feel like my anxiety turns me into to Tweak from South Park sometimes. Okay, you have to forgive me. I don't know Tweak. I'm a big fan of South Park, but I can't watch anymore. Just too crass. But boy, do those boys make me laugh. A couple Colorado cartoonists there. I had some friends that actually worked with those guys. whatever the names are, Mike and Trey or whatever they are. Okay, from Janet. Janet writes, my mind thinks I do not have the right spiritual art hanging behind me for this call. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at behind you, but yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, yeah. And so our minds are silly. It can just like it can come up with all kinds of things. You know, I can remember the first time I saw again Amici, and everyone showed up in like just wearing Indian clothing, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was, this was like, you know, a Halloween experience for just like Western spiritual people get to dress up and be Indian for the day. But yeah, I didn't know that there was a dress code, Okay. Okay. Yeah, and Johan's telling us the instrument, the tanpura. Thank you, Johan. Okay, let's hear from Aaron, and then yeah, maybe we'll call it a night. Hey, Aaron.
Hey,
Yeah, hello, welcome.
hey, thank you. Thank you. Glad you made it home in one piece, even though
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
traveled a
know.
little
I
bit.
wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, yeah. What am I? Let me gather myself here. I recently had kind of let's say a shift, and I want to describe it just a little bit to you because I'm
Yeah,
looking,
please.
yeah, to get your sense of this.
Yeah.
Um, So, um, just recently, I uh, parted way with my romantic partners. One of which, who I was very, very committed to, and I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. And that's heartbreaking. And the reason that I bring it up is because um, we just hit like a place where we recognize we have two very different visions for
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
wanting in the future.
Yeah.
And like looking back, you can kind of see the thread the whole way, but we kind of couldn't realize it till right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so very, very like amicable break, and that's a blessing. But something that I'm realizing, and so this is the kind of as a result, um, is like so I'm someone who, ever since I was quite young, let's say I get a lot of divine impulses, a lot of divine guidance,
Hmm.
kind of movements, right? And it's tortured me because I've felt like unless I do these things, I'm not doing right by God, I'm not doing right by myself. The whole universe is gonna break if I don't follow this guidance, this kind of thing. And my relationship with my ex-partner, I felt very divinely guided towards.
Okay.
And again, just like this is my person, this is gonna be it for me, etc. And I just hit this place where I recognize, and this is what I really like your like thoughts around, that I may be in touch with a lot of um, like fields of potentiality in subtle realms. So I can just
Hmm.
feel a lot of those things. And a lot of
Sure.
those impulses are coming with me. But I can only ground those things that actually flow with my subtle body, head, heart, and gut, that I
Hmm.
can kind of anchor all the way down.
Hmm.
Um, which more practically is like I can think, feel, and act consistently towards over time to make it manifest.
Of
And
course. Yeah, of course.
right, so that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And um, as a result, let me give you one more example. I in a medicine ceremony late last year, I had this kind of it was very beautiful, very healing in many ways, but I had this sense that I needed to get back in touch with a friend who I had gotten out of touch with because it was like I'm not feeling this friendship. I'm not feeling the depth of connection I want here.
Okay.
So I exited. But I got that impulse. And I just kept getting it and I just kept feeling it. So I
Sure.
finally reached back out to the person, was like, man, hey, let's reconnect. A month later, they get back to me. This is literally just a couple days ago. After all this kind of with my partner went down, I'm kind of realizing, I can really only anchor things that are like really a fit for the human being as well as all of the divinity that wants to come here.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And I sat on the text from this friend, and I just had to come back and go, wait, I'm not interested in re-engaging because this is not what I really want.
Damn.
Not
Okay.
my
So
finest moment.
so all right, that's confusion.
It is. Well, it was, yes. This is what I want to say though, because I meet people like me with my constitution who are kind of, what am I looking for here? In touch with lots of different kinds of subtle impulses. And there's this sense of like, I need to bring these things into being. I need to follow God. But that movement is kind of trampling on my humanity or kind of what I really want.
Okay, now you're losing me here.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah,
So
it's
we
okay.
get an
Talk to me.
impulse. We get an impulse from God,
Mhm.
and what happens?
Oh, what
The
happens?
trampling on my humanity part, that confused me because if I get an impulse from God, I'm going to go forward with that, whether it feels good or it feels terrible, because
Right.
that's the truth. And so
And
God will
for
have me say connect with people. My humanity may or may not want to connect with people, but
Mhm.
with that person, but it's just like it's what God's telling me to do, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because that's my job is to serve God. It's just,
I hear that.
and is but if I listen to my ego, I mean, how if I listen to my ego, I'll be selling coconut juice in the North Shore of Maui or something like
Yeah.
I would be doing satsang right now. It'd be like, yeah, got a surfboard and got a little hut and I'm selling coconut juice.
Right.
But what are you telling me here?
No, so really though, that's been my whole line. Follow God. Follow God at all costs. Right? Like I am just going to follow the impulse. But unfortunately, that has, what am I looking for here? That hasn't been the whole thing for me. I'm on a whole different line now where it's kind of like, unless this is aligned with my humanity, like, my human desires and needs. And I'm not, hear me when I say this, Craig. I'm not talking about my gross egoic desires. I'm not talking about
Yeah.
I need to go have whatever with this person, so I'm going to go grab that. I'm talking about refined, like actually sitting with things, taking time with things. So with that kind of qualification, it's a different thing for me. It's like, no. I need to include the human being all the way. And like honestly, middle finger to any impulse that has me moving in a direction that like I can't really ground. That's the point, that I can't really ground.
Yeah, okay, so let's clarify a couple of things
Sure,
here.
sure.
Okay, let's clarify. So
Mm.
the problem with being open, and let's just say spiritually awake, or let's call it just spiritually in tune with God with grace. If you are a reasonably open human being and you're in tune with God's grace, God will give you all kinds of impulses all the time.
Right.
Great visions. Like there's a lot of people who have just tremendous kundalini and they're like, come at me, Craig, I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book. It's just like all this stuff is coming into me and I'm making art and they're like making art and writing books and they're doing this and the kundalini said this, and the kundalini said that. And they're running around and they're like one step away from mania.
Mm.
So that's something that we have to be careful about. And I think you're trying to say, okay, if God tells me to do something, or, you get a divine impulse, let's just say like a vision, a divine impulse. You look at it and you look at your life. In this case, you're saying head, heart, and gut. And you're asking, can I get behind this?
Right.
And so look, I'll honor you in that. Like that sounds great. It's like, because just when we're open, sometimes when we're open is like when we're doing mushrooms. You get lots of ideas. It's just like you see all these huge worldviews, and you see the interconnectedness of life, and you start seeing these connections you can make with everyone, and so and so, and I'll reach out and I'll do this and we'll collaborate. And it's just like we're just way too open, and none of this stuff's going to happen.
Right.
One, just because we're on a substance, and like we're just getting a little too loosey goosey, and like ultimately you have to sort out like, well, who is Aaron? What is Aaron's life about? What is Aaron's life about truly?
Right.
What is it that you care? Like what could you reasonably pull off in this lifetime?
Exactly.
But I want us to be very careful though, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of people who there's some new age teaching. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if I can pull it out of my memory, but I can remember I could remember a time when, let's just say this. I'll just use an example. So I was getting ready just to begin to just start teaching. This is like really early in my career, 20 years ago or so. And uh, I had a couple friends who were like really behind me and really supporting me. And they said, hey, man, like we're really going to support you, and we're going to show up, for this thing, that you're doing, Craig. And we're really going to, help you out. We're really going to be a good friend, for you on this night or this weekend or whatever. I'm just kind of playing with some details here.
Sure.
And in the last moment, both of them were like, I'm just not feeling it tonight. And I was just like, okay, but like this was a big deal for me. Like you really made a firm commitment that we were all going to like work together on this thing. It was going
Right.
to benefit them as well. It wasn't just like about the Craig Holliday show. It was like we are going to do something together. And just like in the last minute, they're like, nah, just my heart's just, I'm just not feeling it right now.
Right. Right.
And our humanity
Right.
can just really swing one way or another very quickly, very quickly. I wish I had the term that both of them said to me, because it's like some new age term where, oh, you only do what feels right in the moment. And so it's just like a new age thing. It's a law of attraction thing. So it's like you're always doing what feels good in the moment. But your ego psychology, your humanity, like it can blow in any different way depending on where the wind's blowing.
Of course.
And it's just like we'll never get anywhere on the path if we let our humanity direct us.
Right.
And so, like, I think what you're speaking about is a deep aspect of your humanity. So if it's a deep aspect of our humanity, that needs to be in alignment with the impulse of the divine.
Right.
But I want you to be careful with, like, one thing about just the feeling nature of the human self is the feeling nature will change in a dime and is easily manipulated and manipulatable, whether it's by our own unconscious self or by others. And we have to be careful about that. Like Taylor said to tell me, Craig, be careful about getting too excited about aliens or, things under the pyramids and this and that. It's like, okay, I want to be careful. I'm going to keep looking at it. I'm going to keep looking because, there's all this stuff there and all this research is coming out. I'm going to keep looking, but you have to be careful because sometimes we get a little carried away, and spiritual people always getting carried away. Everyone gets carried away. I can't tell you how many times, I've been hanging out, just like with my guy friends, and one of them who's, just can't control himself around women. If a beautiful woman walks in the room, he just leaves us all and he's just like gone for the night, just chasing her, just absolutely blind,
Sure.
and so we don't want to be like that guy. This just something can walk in the room and then the deep values out of the room. Now, of course, the way Jesus would say it is like you can't serve two masters. It's
Right.
just like we're serving God no matter how we feel. But
Right.
I want to clarify this other point. When we're open to God, you might get lots and lots of impulses,
Right.
and you can't just chase all of them. You have to find, okay, what are the ones that are deeply true? And sometimes just the nature of God, just because God is just this absolute force of creation, will just throw out like, and there's just certain people who have, they're just clued into potentialities,
Exactly.
and they get overwhelmed by them. I've worked with, there's actually been people in the Sangha who literally had mental breakdowns
Yeah.
because way too many possibilities come in at
Right.
once. It happens, with intuitives, with psychics. It's just they could just get so lost in it, and they connect to something good at first, and then all of a sudden they're talking to this alien and this alien and this alien, and then the dark demons are coming in and the energy vamp, and it's just like whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah. Gets out of
like
control.
let's just listen to our heart. Listen to the quiet voice of God and our heart. But they've opened in such a way that it's like so many different beings are going on here, and there was too much information. It's one of the reasons why our throat chakra tends to contract so much, is because it and our crown can contract so much, is because if these are really open, we can be flooded, from God, or we can be flooded by our own emotions, and it can literally make us go mad. And so a lot of times the superego will say, no, I need to shut all this down. With
Right.
you,
Right.
like the thing that you need to be concerned with is, one, is the impulse, let's just say this, the truth. And if it's the truth, I'm going to encourage you to follow it, whether it feels good or not. Because eventually the truth will show you the depth of your humanity, which is going to be different than just our everyday humanity. It's going to reveal to us that God's will and our highest will
Right. Exactly.
is one.
That's it.
But for a lot of us, we can give our humanity just too much power. And in that, we dilute God all day long, and we can be like this semi-spiritual person who's thinking they're doing God's work, but then I mean, just the word for it is the ego co-ops the truth, or it co-ops falsehood, and calls it the truth, and say, no, I need to be. And people start using words like authentic. That drives me crazy. People use the word authentic. It's like we should be authentic all the time. Like authenticity is freedom.
Right. Is your heart shining? Right.
Is your heart shining? It's your highest nature. Authenticity is God's nature.
Totally.
Is God's nature. And oftentimes, like what I found is, again, and this is what I was kind of saying, that thing in the beginning about like nothing's going to get in between me and God. That includes my own ego. So I constantly putting this thing in check, like, hey man, like,
How do I feel about that?
like I'm listening to God first. But with God with me is very consistent. When there's lots of kundalini, I can get, just a bunch of random ideas, but it tends to channel itself into one thing that's like this is the way. I don't tend to get lots of stuff anymore. It's just like, this is the way. When I do get lots of stuff, I spread that out over a timeline where I'm like, okay, maybe that stuff will happen in this lifetime.
Yeah, right,
Not
right,
going to
right.
happen this month. You know,
Right.
even as we talk about like expanding the song, it's like there's so many ideas that everyone's had. It's great ideas. It's like, okay, maybe this is the 3-year plan, but like the 1-year plan is okay, we're going to do this. We're going to
Right.
do this, and so, to have some discernment.
Yeah. No, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Was there something you wanted to add there?
I think what I want to say is that like I totally hear where you're coming from in regards to this tension around what it means for unconscious impulses to co-opt the movement
Yeah.
in a given moment. And then I love what you're talking about in regards to following spirit and it leading you actually into the depths of your humanity.
It
Right?
will. It
Right.
absolutely will, because it's undivided from us ultimately.
Exactly.
Whereas in the ego perspective, there's God and then there's my humanity, and
Right.
we got to get him in alignment. It's like, God is forcing us into alignment.
Exactly.
But a lot of us resist, or a lot of us bullshit ourselves. And keep in mind,
Right.
like I've done that many times where I've
Haven't we
just
all?
been like, but
Right.
I normally would know it pretty quickly. I'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
I'm lying to myself here,
totally,
like this is
totally.
this feels really good, but this is like, no, this isn't the truth. So I'm really slow with human impulses. I'll say this, that matter.
Right. Totally.
That matter. I'm real quick with human impulses. Like, if I had too much money and I'm in the motorcycle shop, it might be like, yeah, I have one of those, one of those, one of those. But come on, I don't have too much money, so that's not going to happen. So it's not a problem. But, um, like with the things that matter, it's like,
Exactly. Take it slow. Let it clarify itself over
let
time.
it clarify, let it clarify. And,
Totally.
there's time to really look and
Yeah.
see. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
just especially like with relationship is such a mystery.
What you're
It's
talking about.
such a mystery. And I will say this just in response to what you said, because there's a little gem here
Hmm.
about,
Hmm.
there's people that we're going to fall in love with, and we're going to have the feeling that this is going to be my person forever and ever.
Right.
What that connotes a soul contract.
Right.
So when we have a soul contract, it's going to have a feeling of, this is my person. We're getting married. This is going all the way to the end. And there'll be like a feeling of home with it. It's similar with spiritual awakening. When it really happens, there's a feeling of home around it.
Right.
But the problem with soul contracts is, just like any contract, there's dates on them. And those
Hmm.
dates are, what God designed.
Hmm.
And so before we incarnated, it's like, hey, you're gonna be with this person from, you know, June 1st, 2020 to,
Right.
September 3rd, 2024.
Totally.
And you guys are going to be madly in love, but then boom, that contract's going to get pulled out from under your feet, or it's going to dissolve, or someone has an affair or whatever. And then that's it. We're done.
Totally.
We're done. But with a soul contract, it's going to feel like I can say this is humorous. I don't want to say this too loud, but I'm just going to say it. There was 10 people that I thought I was going to be married to and just live with, be together forever. And it's just like, 9 of them are gone. 9 of them are gone. And it's just like, and that's just how soul contracts are. It's just like, when
Yeah.
I get the hit for something, it's just like, boom, we're going. We're going. But the one of the qualities of spiritual awakening is like, okay, when it's done,
Yes.
you know, we got to drop that thing. Now,
Yeah,
for me, just because I love deeply, I I got to drop it, but I got to grieve fully,
100%.
and I got to clear the plate, and then you gotta wait for the new thing to come. But for me, like I
Yeah,
never use the word the one anymore because to me, it's just like you
yeah,
will have a the one for a period of the time,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not going to be someone forever.
Right.
It's not going to be, it might be for a whole lifetime. Sure,
Even if
that's a
it's
possibility. That's
exactly,
absolutely a possibility. But
exactly.
sometimes it's for 2 years and 3 months.
Yeah, yeah,
And it'll be, literally a full marriage in the sense that it's a full soul contract. But when the time is up, it's up. It's up. Now, the reason God, there's a problem here is that when truth comes to us, it comes with a quality of completeness and totality.
right,
And
right.
so that confuses the ego mind. The ego mind says, and therefore it will be forever.
Hmm.
Whereas, as truths, a lot of truths in regards to relationship or business or whatever,
Sure.
it'll be like, we're going to do this thing for this period of time, but it's going to come with a big feeling of forever because all of your energies in
Yeah,
the contract.
right.
And that's confusing to a lot of people. It's confusing to a lot of people. The other thing I'll say, this is just one more thing because a lot of folks, this is just something else like in the psychic intuitive realm. A lot of times we get great visions from the divine about the future.
Hmm.
And a lot of people that get these visions of, say, for example, doom and gloom and like the ending of the world, because we've heard this from saints and sages that the end of the world will come at this date, 2012 to 2000, just whatever it is. And they'll get big visions of like death and destruction and genocide and this and that. And, see fire and brimstone and all that kind of craziness. And again, just sometimes when we open to the absolute nature of God, we get downloaded so much, but then
Right.
the mind makes a conclusion about it,
Exactly.
which isn't the truth. And it's not that the sage or the saint, the intuitive or the psychic was wrong.
Exactly.
It's just that their mind was given so much, at this one point in time, that they couldn't handle it. And so they made an assumption about, therefore, it means apocalypse or whatever it is,
Right.
great flooding and this and that. And it might have just been they saw this flood that happened to Texas, just like last month or whenever that thing was, this month,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm sure that was horrific, but it wasn't the end of the world. But when you see it, it's going to look like the end of the world. And it's going to have a feeling of totality with it because it comes from God. And a
Nice.
lot of people get confused by that quality of both
Right.
totality and home. And they hold on to it to such a degree that
Exactly.
um, they might look like a fool later on when the world doesn't end.
Doesn't end. Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
was in Austin, Texas, by the way, when that happened. I wasn't where the flooding was, but we
Yeah.
got a lot of rain.
Yeah. You
Um,
got wet. You got wet.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was something.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you so much for the conversation. That was really wonderful. And then all I want to say is that I haven't watched your shorts on YouTube, but I have seen the thumbnails, and you look so cool. You got your hat, your beard, your sunglasses. You do
Well,
you're out and about in nature. I'm like, Craig is evolving. Look at this guy. He's gonna
I,
capture all of YouTube with this. This is unbelievable.
well, I mean, come on. I think I might get 26 views, but I'm trying some new things. I'm trying some new things, and
It's
people have been
awesome.
asking for short stuff, and people have been cheering it on. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm staring at this with my sunglasses on. Like this morning, I shot this another one. I'm like, I gotta take off my sunglasses so I don't look like just some shady person walking in the woods talking about it.
I
But
think it's awesome. It's a vibe.
but you know how it is in Colorado. The
Right.
sun is so bright because as soon as I got back here from Massachusetts, I was like, oh my God, like the sun in Colorado is so intense. Like you have to have the hat on, you have to have shades on,
Totally.
because it'll just burn up your eyes. But thank you. I appreciate the sweet feedback. I
Absolutely.
appreciate the sweet feedback.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, thank you all so much. What a lovely evening. Let's close our eyes for a moment. And I'm going to invite the grace of God to more fully come into our lives, to come into our hearts, and to lead us, to speak to us, to speak through us. And that we're led by this immense divine intelligence. And so as we join in this practice of opening and receiving, invite God to speak to you directly and to show you what your next step is, or what we need to forgive or accept or let go of. Let's invite this divine intelligence to continue to flow out to all of humanity. So together we can grow and make this world a life divine. May this world be a life divine for all beings, all beings. The wars, the violence, the pain, the confusion, the human trafficking, the slavery, just may it all end. May a great light of love, of truth, of supreme intelligence awaken here on planet Earth, through and throughout all creation. And so much love and respect to each of you. Good night, everyone. See you next week. Okay.